Ladies and gentlemen, EC3.
Impact Wrestling this week was the second set of tapings from the shows in Mumbai, India. And I gotta tell you, man, just being in front of this crowd here in India has made an amazing, tremendous difference for this show. It just livens up the energy of the show. You can tell the performers are having so much more fun playing to this crowd. The crowd is reacting to stuff the way they're supposed to. I mean, it's made a world of difference. There's really no way around it. And so this show opened with a video sequence previewing what was going to be the main event of the night, and it was going to be Sanjay Dutt versus Low Ki for the X Division title. This was a really great package. They showed video of both of these guys from way back when they first came into the company. They, guys, fresh face, baby face looking, and when some of their early encounters, and, Sanjay Dutt is a vet. He's been there for a while and, going through everything that there is to going through, but he's just never been able to win the big one for the X Division title. This regime has really done a great job of restoring the X Division to prominence. I haven't loved all of the multi-man matches because I just think that when you have so many people in a match all the time, it's impossible to really care about any of the individuals in the match. But in certain spots, they have, given these guys a chance to shine. They've frequently put the X Division title in a main event position, and that's just been great. I mean, it's really been a resurgence for the X Division under this new regime. The show got back to doing something that I love when they do, and that was opening with a wrestling match. Novel concept, right? So this is the first ever Sony 6 Invitational Gauntlet Battle Royal. The first person in was Suicide. He was followed by Matt Sydal. Next in was Davey Richards. I loved seeing Davey Richards come out here because at this point, I was thinking that this was going to be kind of an X Division centered thing. And I've just been dying to see Davey Richards get into the mix for the X Division title, just because I think, Davey Richards will do even more to add some prominence to that title, especially considering, that he has probably the best feud going on Impact right now with Eddie Edwards. Next in after Davey Richards was KM, and at that point I knew that this wasn't going to be an X Division battle royal. He and Davey immediately, kind of look at each other, and they're looking at each other like they're gonna fight, but then they're like, you know what? Let's just go attack Matt Sydal and Suicide. So they go start beating down the good guys. Swaggle comes in next, and as soon as I saw Swaggle, I knew it wouldn't be long until we saw Spud. There were a few good spots that Swaggle did. He would get a guy off into the corner and just start chopping him repeatedly, rapidly, stuff that would really hurt from a lot of people, but then they would kind of just mush him down to the ground, and it was kind of a comedy spot, but it really didn't make Swaggle look very good. But it wasn't like damaging. It was no big deal. So Eddie Edwards comes in, and he goes straight for Davey Richards. He does a double leg takedown, starts grounding and pounding him, and they separate. Then Davey Richards stands up. Eddie Edwards runs over to him, dives on him, and they both go flying over the top rope. So they're both out of the battle royal. And just a little side note here. I think having them do that, right? I mean, that really illustrates how deep the blood feud is between these two guys, that they're not even worried about winning the match. They're only worried about hurting each other. And they've just done so many elements to make this feud feel like something that you could just watch forever, because they have, a deep issue. They were tag team partners for a long time, and now they're just not letting this thing go. It's going to never be over between them two. All right, so next, Spud comes out. After Spud comes out, Congo Kong comes out. Congo Kong starts cleaning house. He tosses out Matt Sydal, then he tosses out Rockstar Spud, then he tosses out Swaggle. All right, the next person out was Moose. Now, Moose came out to a big ovation, right? The crowd was really into him. They're all doing the Moose. Moose. Moose, right? So everybody was really into it when Moose came out. And when Moose comes out, it was Moose, KM, and Congo Kong. At this point, I'm thinking these are the last three in, and this is going to be a big spot for Moose. So Moose is a house of fire, man. He comes in, he's, knocking KM, knocking Congo Kong. So he gets Congo Kong over in the corner and he's pounding on him. Then KM dives on him and, they beat Moose down and they actually toss Moose out. And I was like, okay. And then we get the last person to come out and it was Shera. So Shera comes in, he ducks Congo Kong as he's charging him, lets him fly over the rope, and then we got it down to Shera and KM. Now, listen, these two are not the most technical wrestlers you're ever going to see. This was definitely not Shawn versus Brett, but it was good because you knew what was coming. And when you know what's coming, it's not always a bad thing. You just kind of want to see it, right? Just go ahead and deliver me what I want. So Shera gets the win over KM using the Sky High pinfall for the 1-2-3. And Shera celebrated like he just won the world title, man. He jumped into the crowd, hugged his brother and his father who were sitting there. He comes back into the ring and Bruce Pritchard and Scott D'Amore and some official from Sony 6 come out to present him with the trophy. And Shera got that trophy and fell down in the middle of the ring on his knees, crying like Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 12. This was dope, man. This was the type of stuff that you want to see. As wrestling fans, we want to feel like what's happening on the TV show matters, right? We want to feel like the stuff that's going on is worth the time that we spend to watch it. And seeing someone pour out emotion like this over a win, this is great stuff. This validates why you watch, right? So I thought this was absolutely awesome. This was a trophy nobody ever heard of, a battle royal nobody ever heard of. And, Shera certainly is not considered like a top guy in Impact, but a moment like this was absolutely great. One thing that I did think about in watching this, I really like the way that Impact does these gauntlet style matches. I would take one of these gauntlet style matches and I would make it the feature part of a big event, like a pay-per-view or something, and the winner would get like a world title shot. It's kind of similar, obviously, to the Royal Rumble, but who cares, right? What's new in wrestling? So I love that. We cut to Josh Matthews and JB talking about the main event of the night, and Josh says that the main event of the night will be his sparring session. JB lets him know, no, it's not going to be his sparring session. It's actually going to be the X Division title match, and they throw to a video package of Sanjay Dutt talking about why this match is so important to him. He says that, he has 2 kids and he wants them to see him do something that he's never done before. He talks about how he's tried so many times to win the X Division title and just come up short. And he says that if he can't get it done this time, that this will be the last time. So, very emotional, really setting the stage for how important this moment was going to be to Sanjay Dutt. We get a video of Joseph Park and Jeremy Borash preparing for their big match at Slammiversary. We see these guys in the car, right? They're following the GPS and they're looking for a kung fu place, right? And when they arrive to their destination, it's actually a Chinese restaurant. So they get to the restaurant and they look at each other, and Joseph Park says to JB, they may not have kung fu, but they've got great kung pao chicken. And so, the next scene we get is these guys coming out of the restaurant looking full. Listen, I got to tell you, I think this is actually the best approach they could possibly take with this match. Is this a match that I would have picked? No. Is this a match that I'm especially looking forward to see? No. But at this point, this is the best way by far to try and promote this match, right? Like, this is a comedy thing, and to make it, JB and Joseph Park are just trying not to get killed by Scott Steiner. I think this is by far the best way to go about pushing this match. All right, we get back to the Impact Zone in India, and EC3, he comes out to the ring, and he's dressed as E-Sing 3. He's dressed in some sort of, traditional Indian clothing. He has on these shoes that are like, looked something like Aladdin would wear, right? It was like gold shoes with like a horn at the top of it, and he sits down in the ring like in like a yoga pose, and he has an interpreter with him. So he gets up and he starts to talk to the audience, and he's saying really nice things to having the interpreter. He's like, hey, my great grandfather is actually Indian. So I am with you and you're with me and we're making history together, right? And the crowd's eating it up. Then he switches it up on him and he starts healing on this crowd so hard. And he tells them, I'm the best guy here. I'm the best guy everywhere. I'm definitely the best guy in this country. And he's just, really berating the whole country. And the translator, he looked like he did not want any parts of this. And he just kind of refuses to translate to the crowd these mean things that EC3 is saying. And so EC3 gets upset with him. He kicks the guy in the gut, throws him down on the mat, takes off the man's own belt and starts beating him with it. Whew. At this point, James Storm comes out for the save, and EC3 dips up to the stage. So the crowd actually loved this. That was a great segment. Next, we got to look backstage at Swoggle and Spud in catering. I guess it was earlier before the Battle Royal. And, Spud gets his food and comes over to the table, right? Swoggle's sitting there with the Mumbai Cats. And Spud is trying to not make eye contact with Swoggle. He's trying to sit there and kind of just eat his food. And Swoggle's like, why'd you pull my pants down? You meant to pull my pants down. Why would you do it? You pulled my pants down. And Spud's trying to deflect the conversation. He's like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I told you I didn't mean to. You beat me with a hammer. And eventually Spud gets frustrated and he says, shut up. I hate short people, which, the irony, right? Coming from Spud. And Swoggle hops up on the table, walks across the table, and slams Spud's face into his food. There's obviously erupts into a brawl. These guys are just fighting all over catering, and that's how this segment goes off. Josh Matthews comes out to the ring for his what do they call it? His workout display, his public workout. He comes out for his public workout. He introduces his opponent. He tries to give him this big hyped up introduction, right? He says, this guy was a former Olympic wrestler. He says he was on the cricket team. He says he was a movie star. The guy that comes out is this fat dude in a red Kool-Aid onesie. And, he's not as fat as Congo Kong, but he's still pretty unathletic looking. So he and Josh are going back and forth. He's giving Josh arm drags all over the ring. And then eventually Josh Matthews just kicks him in the nuts. And the guy goes down. Josh Matthews goes up to the ring, goes to the top rope and gives him a swanton bomb. Now this, Josh Matthews deserves credit for because that was a picture perfect swanton bomb. You can't take that away from Josh Matthews. That was a really good swanton bomb. So after that, he rolls the Indian jobber over and puts him in the Steiner recliner, right? So the Indian jobber taps out, and Josh Matthews won't let the Steiner recliner go, right? So he's choking the guy in the Steiner recliner. The bell rings, and eventually Shearer comes out for the save, right? So Shearer comes out, gets in Josh's face, picks Josh up like he's going to slam him. And then Lashley comes out. Lashley starts to beat down Shearer. And then Lashley lays Shearer out and has Josh Matthews put Shearer in the Steiner recliner. And I just find this hilarious that these guys can't break the Steiner recliner being put on by Josh Matthews. Whatever, right? So Josh has got Shearer in the Steiner recliner, putting it on him. And then Alberto El Patron comes out for the save. So Alberto chases everybody away. They go running. Alberto's in the ring celebrating with the audience. And listen, you can try to fight it, but it's clear that Alberto El Patron is being positioned as the star of this show, right? He's the big grand babyface hero. And right now, Lashley's chances at Slammiversary are not looking good because the show is being built around Patron. He's being positioned as the top babyface. And if that's your top babyface and you want to give the audience a feel-good, go-home moment, at your big pay-per-view, then he has to be the winner, right? Right? So we'll see. All right, we go back to JB and Joseph Park in their training session. They're sitting watching videos of Scott Steiner from what had to be 100 years ago when he actually still looked like a bodybuilder, right? And they're just, they're getting more and more scared as they're watching the different things that Scott Steiner does to people. And then at some point, Jeremy's phone rings and it's like a FaceTime and they're both sitting there frozen in fear. Now, I feel like everybody at home kind of knows what's coming at this point, but they cut away and we go back to the action. We get Trevor Lee versus Braxton Sutter with Allie, of course. This was basically a squash for Braxton Sutter. He put him away in about 2 or 3 minutes with a swinging neck breaker. As Braxton Sutter and Allie are getting ready to leave the ring, Sienna comes out to the top of the ramp with Laurel Van Ness, still wearing that wedding dress, by the way. And Sienna has a mic. Now, whenever you get a chance to see Sienna with a mic in her hand, stop what you're doing and take a listen. She's pretty good. She has this great, sassiness about her. And she's pretty funny. So she tells Braxton Sutter to wipe that stupid look off his face. And she asks Braxton, why are you wearing a beanie when it's 150 degrees outside? Fair question. She tells Allie that since she wants to act like a wrestler, it's time for her to actually be a wrestler. So she challenges Allie to a tag team match, Sienna and Laurel Van Ness versus Allie and her new best friend, Rosemary. So we're going to get that next week on the show. We get a low-key video package. He has threatening words for Sanjay Dutt. He tells him that, sometimes you're chasing your dream and your dream can transform into a nightmare. But hearing me say it is not nearly the same as hearing Low Key say it. This guy has a voice that was made to be like a cartoon villain. I mean, like if you're ever filming a movie and you just need somebody to say something scary, please call Low Key, because this guy, he has a voice that would make Thriller. Who's the voice in Thriller? Vincent Price, I think. Somebody. Anyway, but Low Key has a great evil voice. Next, we get a Slammiversary promo with, a host of the different wrestlers that perform in Impact, just really talking about, how big of an event this is going to be and what the event means to them. This is a really good promo. They've done so much better with the, with the video packages and with the promotions of things, really making events, matches, pay-per-views feel like a big deal. So that was pretty cool. Back to the Impact Zone, Moose comes out to the ring for a promo, and Moose says that he successfully defended his title against Eli Drake 2 weeks ago. He gets cut off by Eli Drake and Chris Adonis. They come out and they tell Moose that, since the new regime came in, they've been getting the short end of the stick. Eli Drake tells Moose that he's got his head so far up Bruce Pritchard's you-know-what that he can probably tell him what he had, or they tell him what kind of curry he had for dinner. So Moose is incensed at this, right? He's angry, and he challenges Eli Drake to a match at Slammiversary. Now, I don't understand why the good guys are always challenging the bad guys to a fight. I mean, if Moose is the grand champion and he knows the bad guys want his title, why are you offering them chances to come take your title? Doesn't make sense to me. But Moose challenged Eli Drake, and then Chris Adonis takes the mic and he says, hey, you challenged Eli Drake, but I think you forgot about me. Eli Drake's got me. Who do you got? And so they both get in the ring. Chris Adonis and Eli Drake start beating down Moose. Moose pulls a nice comeback, gets both of those guys out of the ring, and then he picks the mic back up, and Moose tells them that he does have a partner to face the both of them at Slammiversary, and he'll tell us all who it is next week. All right. Back to JB and Joseph Park. So they're sitting there on the couch, and they answer the FaceTime call, and it's Scott Steiner. So Scott Steiner's just on the FaceTime call on a computer, and he's just telling them how much, what he's going to do to them. He's calling them fat, and they're both just sitting there looking terrified. Eventually they get up and run away and just leave Scott Steiner cutting a promo on him. This was funny stuff, man. This was funny stuff. Like I said, you cannot look at this match like it's going to be some sort of, serious match or anything like that. This is definitely not a match that anybody is looking forward to seeing, but at least they're presenting it in an entertaining way, right? So at this point, the question is, how in the world can JB and Joseph Park survive a match against Scott Steiner and Josh Matthews? All right, main event time. We got Sanjay Dutt versus Low Ki for the X Division title. There's been a build-up this whole show about this match. There was so many good spots in this match, man. One that I loved was Low Ki did a spot where he was running and he jumped onto the ropes, kind of like Cody Rhodes does when he's going to do his disaster kick. But Sanjay Dutt runs and jumps on the ropes right next to him and grabs him, and they both go off in a swinging neck breaker. Then there was another spot I love where Sanjay is in one corner and Low Ki does a cartwheel and he jumps into this beautiful flying spin kick right into Sanjay's head. There was another spot I loved where Sanjay Dutt tried to go for a sunset flip and Low Ki wouldn't go down. Low Ki reaches down and smashes Sanjay's head into the mat, and then he follows that right up with the double foot stomp. The match came to an end when Sanjay hit Low Ki with a spinning DDT and followed that up with a big splash off the top rope. He gets the 1, 2, 3, and Sanjay Dutt wins his first ever X Division championship in India. He was so emotional after the match. I mean, you could just see the tears in his eyes, and the crowd went crazy for it. The audience absolutely loved it. A bunch of wrestlers from the locker room came down to help him celebrate. Cher was actually holding Sanjay up on his shoulders. This actually a little bit in some ways kind of reminded me of when Mick Foley won the championship on Monday Night Raw and DX was running around the ring with holding Foley on their shoulders. I mean, this was kind of a big deal. Somebody even started, a few guys started like shaking up and pouring champagne. So, this was really cool. They did a really good job making this feel like a big deal. You cannot replace the atmosphere that gets created by an audience that comes out and is actually involved, invested, and interested in your show. And these tapings in India have just made the Impact shows 100 times better than, what they've been in the Impact Zone. That's no disrespect to the fans in the Impact Zone, but it is what it is, right? These people came out to see this show, and so they're involved and invested in the show, and, they're giving the people their energy. And that's just another reason why, Impact has to hurry up and get this show back out on the road for tapings. They actually announced a few live events that are going to be coming up in the next few weeks, and one of which is going to be in Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is close to me. So I'm definitely planning on checking that out. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So, the build to Slammiversary continues. They're doing, I'd say, a pretty good job, right? I mean, you can look at some of this stuff and you could say that the interest was there or the interest wasn't there, but you can't deny that the build to this stuff is coming along logically. It's making sense, and I'm looking forward to seeing the show. I don't know that I'm feeling necessarily excited, like I'm chomping at the bit to actually see the show, but I'm looking forward to it, right? I'm looking forward to it. Definitely want to know what's going to happen with the unification of the GFW Championship and the Impact World Title. So, they've done, you got to give these guys credit, man. They're doing a good job building to this pay-per-view. Everything that we've seen for the past 8 weeks has been centered around building towards this pay-per-view. And yeah, I mean, you got to respect it, man, because if you're on this show, right, Slammiversary matters because everything that you've been doing has in some way been leading up to Slammiversary. And so that's the message that you want to create for your audience. That's so much better than the cookie cutter 4-week build to a pay-per-view, because that really makes the pay-per-view seem like less of a big deal, right? But here, week after week, we're getting good matches that matter, and they're just building up to an event that should be even bigger. I'm actually talking myself into wanting to see the show a little more. So, so that's our Impact review for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. All the Impact fans, let me know what you think. All right, that's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like what you're hearing, please tell a friend to tell a friend. Like us on iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, comment on it, leave us a 5-star rating. If you're hearing this link on SoundCloud, pass it along to a friend, repost it on somebody's page, somebody that you know is a wrestling fan. Let them tell me if I stink. Let me know, if I need to just shut up and stop doing this, or if I'm great, right? Let me know. If you're watching this link on YouTube, please, like and comment, subscribe to the page. And like I said, tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's bring more people into the conversation. Thank you guys so much. Happy Father's Day, and we'll see you next week.